I gave up alcohol to sort out my health. Did I expect it to create the space where I would actually question everything going on right now? Was it uncomfortable? Very. Was it needed? 100% yes. So before we get going, this is not going to be some anti-alcohol video, nor is it going to be the benefits on your health. We all kind of know what that is. And if I'm totally honest, I do think there's some kind of middle ground between sort of that whole clean sobriety living thing and being a heavy drinker. I think for most of us, we can sort of moderate somewhere sensible. And that's the angle this comes from. But this video is going to be about that 90 days and beyond, about how giving it up for that period has kind of changed my life a little bit, to be totally honest. So if you haven't watched me before, my name's Carl. I'm 46 and I'm rebuilding my life after losing my job. And on this channel, I talk about starting again, how to build that next chapter, and documenting my own journey as I go along. So I would consider myself a middle of the road drinker. I'd probably come up for 2 or 3 pints on a Thursday. Friday night, go out with the lads for 4 or 5 pints. And then, as you say, get to the Sunday, bottle of red wine, have a Sunday dinner between me and my partner, which I think a lot of us do. And when I think back about how long I've been doing that for, it's got to be most of my adult life, realistically. And yeah, there's been breaks along the way, things like dry Jan, as we always do. But the bigger picture is, yeah, I've been sort of been a middle of the road drinker since I was probably about 18. And what I'll say is when I've gone through periods of stress, like losing a job, for example, over the past, that has actually increased a bit. You know, there'll be 2 pints on a Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday night as well, just to sort of release the stress. Because I think over the years, that's kind of what I've been taught to do. And then I got to January this year. It was just after the wife's birthday, which is mid-Jan. And I looked in the mirror and I got fed up for looking at what I was seeing. I'm overweight, which I'm still working on at the moment. It's going to take a bit of time. But I also looked tired and haggard, and I really felt like something had to change. So the obvious one was to give up the booze. And the plan was to do 90 days because that felt like kind of a good challenge. Now, from pretty early on, I noticed something in the evenings and I just felt a little bit uncomfortable. Now, at first I thought it was just boredom, and I thought it was just one of those things I had to sort of almost just deal with. But then I realised it actually was something a lot more than that was going on. And as the days went by, what was interesting is it actually got worse and it didn't go away. And I found it harder and harder just to kind of sit there and do nothing. So I ended up finding this sort of routine where sort of 9 o'clock at evening, when my lad just sort of goes to bed, the wife's putting him to bed, I'd go out for kind of a walk. And it wasn't planned, it's just what I started doing. It became a little bit of a habit. Just getting out there and finding a little bit of space to kind of clear the head and to kind of break the routine a little bit. And what I come to discover in that time on those walks was that I thought I was just kind of keeping my head above the water and everything was okay. But actually all the stress, all the worry, everything going on from the past 5 years, to be totally honest, was all still playing over in my head. It was still there. And my mind was full of real toxic self-talk. You know, the way you kind of sometimes talk to yourself that's, you know, if you spoke to a friend that way, you get in trouble. My brain was full of that. And I was talking to myself in such a sort of horrible way. And to be honest, it was a pretty dark place to be. And what I think I discovered at that point was the booze in the evenings, at its core sort of point, was that it just turned off that self-talk for a couple of hours. It just put it away, made things silent, and I felt a little bit better again. And that was fine. For a couple of hours, I feel good about myself. But the truth is, the next morning, it was all still there again, ready to catch up with you. And I only kind of noticed that when I sort of had the space to realise it. And what I'd say is, without all the sudden distraction of that booze every night, I actually started to deal with it. And as I say, the space from walking and sort of journaling really kind of helped. And after I spent a couple of weeks kind of doing this, it became really apparent to me that I wasn't happy anymore. I felt stuck and I felt bored in life. And I felt like there was no purpose anymore. And I think deep down, my confidence over the past few years has taken such a knock. It just felt safer to stay the same, doing the same thing, than actually trying to do anything different and create a change. But the truth is, as we all know, if I wanted to create a life that actually excited me again, that meant I didn't need to sort of kind of numb stuff down, but actually build something that was exciting, that I was going to have to work through it and kind of deal with these issues. But also say a bit more than that, and that's basically to build a life that actually excites me again. I think we lose ourselves in our 40s sometimes, kind of caught in the day-to-day. And I want something again that sort of brings that excitement back. So then without the booze, what it felt like was actually breaking the cycle, the weekly cycle. So instead of kind of starting again each week, it felt like you're building day on day without that break. And whilst only small to start with, it felt really clear that I was starting to build a little bit of momentum to sort of stuff and the life that I kind of wanted. So the boredom was still there. But instead of kind of trying to avoid it, I leant into it. And I was like, well, if I'm bored, I'm not happy, what is it I actually want from life? It's not something we ever really ask ourselves these days, is it? We're kind of so busy with the day to day. But I actually set some time aside and ask myself, what do I actually want? What do I want the sort of next 10, 20 years to look like? And I just spent some time asking myself that question. So once I got clear on that kind of where I wanted to be, and it's not a finished picture yet, it's kind of probably 75% there. But once I got there, I then put aside an hour every evening to start working towards it. So instead of sitting every evening having a few beers, I started doing something positive and working on this sort of future vision for my life, whether that be doing some reading, take some actions, do some tasks, whatever it may be. Every evening I started doing this. What happened over the course of a few weeks is I actually started to look forward to it every day. My wife was really good. She allowed me the hour to kind of go on my own for a little bit upstairs and just sort of work on this. And it became kind of a feature point to my day. And the evenings become quite exciting again because I was working on something quite positive. From that time I've invested elsewhere. I actually today started to see a return on that investment. Things are starting to happen in life that probably wouldn't have happened if I'd stayed stuck in that sort of cycle. Because I made that change and put something in place, took some action, 3 months on, things are starting to look a little bit different. So the question then is, what next? Well, as it stands today, it's day 115 being alcohol free. And that's well past the first 90-day challenge that I plan to start with. But the truth is, right now, I don't really want to go back to it because whether it's real or not, what's happened for sure for me is that the not drinking thing feels like almost like a bit of a golden thread that's going through everything. It feels like right now, if I stay off the booze, things will keep going in a positive way. And if I'm honest, I just want to see where this path ends up taking me if I sort of stick to it for a little while longer. Because if I'm seeing kind of like green shoots of the past kind of 90 days appearing now, what happens if I do another 90 days? What do those green shoots become? And bearing in mind, it's only been 3 months. I'm starting to feel sort of really excited about life again. And that is even with the job loss thing at the moment, not having a job and looking for work. Because what I'd say that's different is I'm a lot calmer now. And that's really weird. I feel a lot calmer, even though I'm not getting this sort of escapism side of it. Day to day, my brain is a lot more confident. I find it easy to say that if the job thing doesn't work out, that whatever happens, it will sort itself out. As long as I show up, it will sort itself out. I've got the ability, one way or another, to make money. And that's self-confidence, I would say, that has come from not drinking. I think it has to be. And will it be forever? This is a question I get asked a lot when mates ask me about it. And the answer is kind of yes and no. Yes to the kind of weekly drinking, I think. I don't see myself going back to drinking every sort of weekend like I was. I kind of like the gaps in between to do stuff. And let's be honest, in your late 40s, hangovers, they just seem to stick around. You can't get over them as quick as you used to. And I'd rather not waste 1 or 2 days with a hangover when I could be building momentum. So drinking frequently, I think, is now a thing in the past. But do I see myself never having a beer with my mates again at a party? Or do I see myself never having a glass of wine on holiday? I think I would miss that. And it's probably not what this is about. I probably get some sort of negative comments on this, I suspect. But I think for most of us, we can drink moderately, as long as there's not a sort of problem there as such. For me, that looks like, I think, as I say, not drinking at home anymore, not every weekend, but keeping it for that sort of special occasions. I think for now, our holiday isn't until August, so I think I'm probably going to stick with it until then. I'd like to do a little bit more work on the weight side of things, so it makes sense too. So if I was to do that, which is kind of mid-August, and get there, I would have been alcohol free for 7 months. That to me is a pretty good achievement, and I'll be quite happy with that. And let's be honest, if I have a few beers on holiday, I'm not going to be drinking very much because I'm probably going to have the tolerance of a teenager. I'll probably have 1 or 2 pints and be away with the fairies, but we'll see. And let's say there's no guarantee, I may not bother, I don't know. I'm just going to be open-minded to everything at the moment. But say for now, I think for the next 3 months, I'll just stick with it and just see where it goes. So what about you? Have you been on a similar journey yourself? Have you tried to have a break in the past? How did it go? Or maybe you've gone further down the line. Maybe you are full-time, kind of don't drink anymore. It'd be really nice to know sort of what your sort of experiences of this. Let us know in the comments as always, and I do read everyone and try to reply. And I think for now I'm going to wind it up there. Please, as always, like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and cheers for now. See you next time.